Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Tackett, and I'm the Admission Systems Coordinator here at Lick-Wilmerding. I'm joined today by one of my colleagues, Jules Sparks. She's here behind the scenes helping to make this event possible. This is the 5th installment of the Life at LWHS virtual panels, and today's panel is entitled Arts at LWHS. We're going to be focusing specifically on the visual and performing arts today here at Lick-Wilmerding. And as someone who is an alum of the school and who was heavily involved in performing arts and visual arts while I was at Lick, I'm just really excited to be here today. I am joined by 4 of our wonderful students and 2 faculty members, and they're here to answer some prepared questions as well as some questions that were submitted by you families. So I'd love to get started by introducing everybody today. Students, can we go ahead and start with you? Can you say your name, your grade, your pronouns, what middle school you came from, and then just kind of give a little overview of your arts background coming into Lick. So does somebody want to start? Eamon, you want to start?
Sounds good. All right, my name is Eamon, he, him, pronouns. What else? I'm graduating in the class of 22, so I'm a junior. That's crazy to say, but it's true. I went to the Crowden School in Berkeley, which is it's a music school. So that's kind of where I started my music experience, really, my string instrument experience, to be precise. And at Lick, I am heavily involved in the chamber orchestra, as well as I've actually participated in architecture with Garanka here. So I have done the class of both of our wonderful faculty on this panel. Yeah, but I've been participating in chamber orchestra since my freshman year, and I was also in the musical in the orchestra. So yeah, that's kind of my musical background at Lick. Anyone can take it from there.
I'm Ronan. I use he, him pronouns. I am also a junior, and I went to Prospect Sierra in the East Bay. I came into Lick not doing a ton of arts. I've always been interested in them, but not like doing a lot. But at Lick, I have done backstage for our plays, as well as I've taken a couple music classes with Mr. Asara.
Hi, I'm Eliana. I'm also a junior. My pronouns are she, her. And I went to a middle school in Oakland called Escuela Bilingüe Internacional. And my arts background is definitely a lot of music. I sang in choir as a kid and did community theater. Basically, sorry, that's my dog. Have done community theater basically my whole life. I've also taken a lot of different dance classes, and then at Lick I've been in the choir since I was a freshman and also participated in the musical.
And I'm Luna. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a senior. I went to St. Cecilia for middle school, which is in San Francisco, and in middle school we didn't really have any sort of arts programs, but I did do stagecraft in 7th and 8th grade for my middle school's like annual plays. So at Lick, I took stagecraft my freshman year, and then I've taken architecture since sophomore year, so for 3 years.
Great. And next I'd like to introduce our faculty. So feel free, Garanka or Ms. Stoddard, either one of you can start. Can you tell us what subject you teach and how long you've been at Lick?
Go ahead, Garanka.
Thank you. My name is Goranka Polak-Hoy. My pronouns are she and her and hers. I have been at Lick 33 years, and I teach visual arts. I'm a chair of the visual arts department, and I teach art and architecture in that department.
And I'm Martha or Marty Stoddard, she, her. This is my 30th year at Lick-Wilmerding High School. And I remember when Elizabeth and her siblings were music students. It's very fond memories. I teach instrumental music. At the time, I used to teach music theory too. And this year I'm teaching chamber orchestra, jazz, combo, and big band. And then actually I'm involved with the science department teaching the music in the brain course, which I'm very excited about. I've been chair of the department for, this is my 4th year in that role. Did I cover it all? I think that's covered it all, but I'm on a race to catch up with Garanka. I don't know if I can catch up with 3 years because she's always going to be a little bit ahead of me, but we are neighbors and happily neighbors. And it's nice to see you all here.
Wonderful. Thanks for everybody for introducing yourselves. So I'd love to get started by asking our students some questions. So students, based on kind of the, what you came into Lick knowing about the arts, whether you knew a lot or a little bit, what is something new that you've tried in performing arts or visual arts?
I can go ahead. So as I said, I came from a kind of, I don't want to say rigid, but it was definitely a structured classical background with music. And Lick, really coming to a Lick concert, I think was one of the most eye-opening experiences of my life. It was so cool. There was all kinds of music being played and all kinds of different people playing it. And it was just such a wonderful thing. And it just, as I said, it opened my eyes to a whole new world of music that I had previously not been exposed to. But one way that I kind of stepped out of my box and tried something new was when I did play with the musical, because I had no idea what I was getting into and what playing in a musical entails. I thought it was just the same as, playing in a normal orchestra. No, it is. There's all these kinds of variables and all these kinds of things you need to keep track of, and you need to be in time with the singers. It's a lot. It was a lot of work, and the payoff was immense. It was just, it's got to be one of the best musical experiences of my life, not even at Lick. So I'm very grateful that I took that risk.
Eamon, do you want to tell everybody what the musical was?
Yes, it was Beauty and the Beast. I think it was 2019, was it? Yeah, that was an awesome show.
I agree. That was an awesome show. I got to be in it and it was really, really fun. And yes, playing in the orchestra seemed like a very scary job, but at the same time, being in the ensemble, especially as a freshman, allowed me to make a lot of connections with a lot of different kids at Lick. In terms of new things I've tried, there's 2 things that really stand out for me, especially from my freshman year. I was in kind of the beginner chorus called Vocal Point, which is a class of all freshmen, where we kind of learn the basics of singing, which is something I kind of had a background on. But Mr. Osara, who is the amazing vocal music teacher, really pushed us to step out of our comfort zone. So for me, that was singing a solo. And we had a whole unit about solo singing, which really pushed me out of my box. And I was very grateful for it. I got to sing a solo at the concert, which was an incredible experience to have as a freshman. I think it really made me grow as a performer. And then kind of similarly in visual arts, as freshmen, all freshmen take contemporary art and media, where we learn a lot of different disciplinaries of art. And one of those was drawing, which is something I had done a little bit, but not I had never learned how to actually draw something. And in that class, I really pushed myself and having other people look at your art and learning that skills to be really proud of something that you're drawing was a really amazing experience for me. And I think the way Lick pushes you to try new things, not just academically, but in terms of the arts, really makes you grow as a thinker and a learner through all the classes.
I had a very similar experience. I came to Lick. I had always liked music. I hadn't really played a lot, and I'd kind of gotten really rusty in my middle school. I'd forgotten all my musical things. But because Lick has a performing arts requirement, I put it off my freshman year, and then my sophomore year I decided I wanted to do a performing arts. So I decided to take creative projects in music production. And I was really worried going into the class because I forgotten any kind of music theory. I really didn't know anything, and I went in there pretty worried. But Mr. Asar, the teacher, he was so funny and he was so nice, and it ended up being one of my favorite classes because we'd go in there and we get to work on our projects during the class. And if he needed help, he was super accessible. I could ask him any questions. and he like made it really easy for people with musical background to make that like an add-on. But if you didn't have that background before, like you could still do all the same work. And I ended up really enjoying it. And it actually prompted me to start playing the guitar, which I'm really happy I took that class. And then my other thing that I started doing at Lick was, well, in middle school, I signed up to do lighting for a play, but like my middle school experience was really like everything was already made for us. And I just kind of sat and I hit a button during every scene change. And like, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't really the same. And I came here to Lick and I was like, oh, like I'll sign up to that again. It was fun. I did in middle school. I had no idea like how much we'd end up doing here at Lick. We started off, I signed up to do lighting again. We kind of came after school with Miss Boyd, the stagecraft teacher. And she taught me kind of like the basics of it. And I got to go up on the ladders and I was terrified of going up the ladders. But like over time, like after getting to work with her a lot, like slowly I've been able to do more and more and more. And I remember also that musical Beauty and the Beast. That was a crazy production because I like all the different people had to get light like differently, because that was my second show. We did that second semester. I was able to take on more responsibility and I was like, oh, like I kind of know like what's going to end up needing to happen. It felt really like good to be like delegated to and to like see your work get used.
I also had a pretty similar experience that with what Ronan just said when I took stagecraft my freshman year as part of the performing arts, because even though I helped out on stage crew in middle school, like all the set design and like actually building the sets was mostly done by parents. And so when I remember it was maybe October of my freshman year, and Miss Boyd, the stagecraft teacher, she like brought us all into the shop and taught us how to use like the power tools and the miter saw and the handheld saws. And so like even before we learned how to do them in our other shops, I learned how to get over my fear of using power tools. And the fall play that I did was The Outsiders, and there's the church scene, and we had to come up with a way to represent a church without actually building a whole church. And so like I remember we came up with this window design and I learned how to like trace everything out and then cut the whole thing and put it up on the stage myself, which was something that I'd never done before. And then the big thing that was new for me in art at Lick was taking architecture, because I didn't even know that that was a thing that I could do like while I was still in high school. But a lot of my friends said that they loved Garanca and that they were signing up for architecture. So I was like, I'll sign up for architecture too. And then I ended up really, really liking the class because we get to learn about art and we also learn about architecture history, but we get a lot of like developing our own designs, and we learned how to do computer modeling. We learned how to make our handheld models and how to draw. And so that has been really fun for me. It's like, because architecture is like art, but it's also a real thing that people could live in and spend time in. So that was really cool.
So, you know, knowing the different backgrounds that all these students today have come in with, for my faculty members, what is it like for you to work with both students who are very new at your subject and students who have come in with a lot of experience?
Well, I love having that range of students because I think that what we get from students with I'd like to call a beginner's mind is this openness and receptivity to new things, and the bravery to try something that I mean, you know, it's hard being a teenager, I think, to try new things and take risks and stick your neck out with something that you're not already confident with. And I think Lick embraces that. The whole philosophy of the arts and the whole school is to say, you know, stretch yourself and try things, and it's to make a safe place to try. So our goal is to make a safe place. And what I will say about kids that come in with experience, there's always something new to learn, no matter how skilled you are. And some of that is about relationships. Some of that is about how to share what you know. Some of it is how to reflect and how to pace yourself along with kids at different levels and be inclusive. And what I've experienced with certainly an orchestra with kids that come in with as much experience as Eamon talks about, and kids that have played for a couple of years maybe, is that there's a place for everybody. And, there's always a place for everybody. And that's one of our goals, is to make it true that way. And within a requirement, it makes it a little bit different. So more different kids come in looking for different things. And I think as we reach to find different offerings to touch them in different ways, or to offer them different kinds of experiences, that's only growing. So I feel very good about the way that happens.
Similarly, in visual arts, for myself, since I teach CMA class, which is Contemporary Media and Art class required from all freshmen, it's really exciting to be in an environment where we receive students, literally brand new kids at school, who have had different experiences, but actually none of them in all of the areas that we teach. Since Contemporary Media and Art class encompasses drawing and painting and architecture and filmmaking and photography, to start with, there's always a place and space for students to, I would say, courageously explore their vision, but also be unafraid of a failure, and ultimately be creative. There are also areas where they haven't had any experience, and that courage is going to be even more really invited and, I guess, reinforced with persistence, which is one of our habits of mind. Ultimately, it's a great class to teach, primarily because we assume that all our kids come to school with imagination and creativity. I mean, they really wouldn't be attracted to Lick or even education, period, without having that part of their makeup. What they often lack is confidence that they are creative. So what we love to do is nurture the confidence in their own creativity through techniques and skills that we introduce. So we focus a lot on the aspect of craftsmanship in our arts, because there is an area in which everybody can grow. So no matter what kind of background they came from, there's always then something else that they can actually go deeper and more in depth with. So that's really what I love about that particular class. As for the architecture, honestly, everybody comes, I mean, I would say like, yes, everybody comes from zero. So it's a great leveling class. It's humbling for everybody. And I really trust my students' desire and ability to succeed in the class. And I more or less coach them one-on-one in spite of, group, larger group, like the size of the students. It's really one-on-one coaching that helps everybody develop their own unique vision and hopefully come to the place where they're content and fulfilled with what they've accomplished.
Sort of based on what you both said, you sort of touched on some aspects of the philosophy, sort of a drive to instill in students courage and persistence and all of that. Can you speak a little bit more, one or both of you, about the philosophy of your specific department and how you sort of nurture that aspect of the student over the 4 years?
Again, I think you're right. I already touched upon that a little bit. We definitely trust the creativity and imagination our students bring, but ultimately work with our students in terms of helping them progress from the spot that they came in with. So for the beginners, I would like to say we like to play a catch-up game. We try to really work maybe a little harder, helping those kids feel more confident, because I think one of the things that's really sometimes hard or stressful for students when they're in an environment where they don't feel that they have same skills like the other students do, and where they perceive their work as inferior. So literally, that's where we work double hard to help those students gain confidence, but also learn skills and express themselves, that it's more to their liking, not so much my colleagues' liking, but really to their liking, and because that really is where their desire to learn and grow more comes from. In terms of what it looks like over 4 years, CMA class is required from all of the students. And it is kind of like an appetizer. Students get exposure to a little bit of each of the areas that are literally offered as electives in our department. And ultimately, as they continue through elective offerings to either explore photography or video making or the drawing, painting, mural making, mixed media, or architecture, the depth of the content increases, but also the complexity of the projects that students will be, delivering. So in the long run, the scaffolding is really what helps students slowly gain confidence while maintaining their creative output at the maximum, and ultimately, navigate their own way through the department. It's not always linear. I mean, we have students who take multiple courses, sometimes simultaneously, but also students who focus on one area and really then go and explore that to greatest depths possible.
I'll just be quick. Just a couple things. A lot of parallels, I think, and uniquenesses to the two departments. One of the things that is the cornerstone in performing arts is certainly collaboration, as ensemble work is in all our programs. Pretty much performance on stage, backstage, collaborating to create things. The other part of that we kind of build on is access and inclusion, and providing opportunities to build community through artistic endeavors and take risks in a safe environment. And the habits of mind and persistence and imagining and reflection are all kind of woven into the fabric of all our courses, which are all unique in that way, so in their own offerings. But yeah, I think that's enough.
Yeah, no, that was great. That was great. So students, I want to pass it back to you. So, knowing the philosophy of the visual and performing arts departments, and, you all took CMA and are all required to take a performing arts class during your time. How have you found that these departments have played a role in your experience at Lick? And any of you can go.
Starting off as a freshman, I was like a little nervous, and the informational meeting for the play is like pretty close to like your first day of school. And so I got the little email from the department, and I decided to sign up for it. And I appeared there. I was like, oh my gosh, like all these like upperclassmen, I don't know anyone here. And they had free food, and I ate the food. And then like after like deciding to sign up for it, working with Miss Boyd and working with like being in the theater after school and like learning like all the little nooks and crannies of it, that like really helped me feel like the school was mine and helped me feel like I belonged there, because I had something I could do and something that like I could learn how to do and help others with. And then that made me like feel much better staying late at school on campus. And then after freshman year, it like really exploded. Like I spent a lot of time my second semester freshman year doing the play, and then also sophomore year. And it just became like a really like a thing that I just like look forward to doing after school, along with sports and other things. But it became like a really great part, and I always look forward to doing it. And it's like a second like group of people that I get to work with and talk to.
I completely agree with Ronan on that. I think there's something about art that really builds like community between people. So once again, my dog, as a person that didn't necessarily I'm not that interested in a lot of sports. So I was like, being in the musical was a really big way for me to make friends. Like, I made some of my best friends with like upperclassmen because like I was in the musical with them. And it's just such like a warm and welcoming environment. And again, like another group of people you get to collaborate with creatively outside of the classroom. And then within the classroom, especially like my freshman chorus class, I know this is not just true for my generation of freshmen, but those classes, like I made some of my best friends in that class just because we got so comfortable with each other, and Mr. Asaro really pushed us to open up, and like we do this thing called vocal improv where we just stand in a circle and like sing whatever pops into our brain. And I think that just kind of shaped a confidence in me that has translated like throughout my whole like experience.
Yeah. Well, Lick has this like series of edicts called the community norms. And I don't remember all of them, but there is one that I remember very clearly, which is lean into discomfort. And I feel that is something that we as performers, we as artists in Lick community, we do constantly. We're always trying to push ourselves and trying to, doing new things. And that's not necessarily comfortable at first. Like a lot of our experiences have involved on this panel, we've involved like, doing something that we had no experience with whatsoever, and then, ending up really liking it. And I feel like that's something that can translate very easily and very well to other aspects of Lick life in other classes, for example, other subjects. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think you all put it really, really well. And also, I specifically for me for architecture, a big thing that I learned was patience. Because when I was doing the freshman arts course during architecture, I didn't really have the patience to cut everything neatly and like glue it all and put my model together and make it look really nice. But when I started architecture, we had to make so many drafts of our floor plans and spend so many hours just like building little houses and things. So I like really learned how to slow down and take my time to like create a really beautiful finished piece. And I think that has definitely, like, learning time management and persistence has really been helpful, like as my course load increased in other academic areas.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'm not on the panel today, but as an alum who graduated, almost 13 years ago, I can attest that everything these students are saying is what my experience was like too. And that is such a wonderful testament to these departments. So I'm so glad that the feeling is continuing and that you all are having the same type of experience. I want to ask our teachers, so sort of based on how these students say, this has been the impact of the visual or performing arts in my Lick-Wilmerding experience, what do you see as the benefit of having every student take a visual or performing arts class?
Well, there are so many, just in terms of personal investment in creative expression. I think just on a personal level, on an individual level, on a community level, there's also an opportunity to see the world from a different lens, the lens of an artist, either in whatever medium you choose to be an artist, to develop confidence in your ideas and your ability to express them, and also to gain appreciation and respect for the role of arts and artists in society. Those are kind of some big picture things that I think of. In terms of building community, I think the kids say it the best, that they made their best friends ever through these experiences. They learned persistence, and they learned how to be patient with themselves by doing things that are not easy, and having support to continue to do them until they get easier. Watching kids grow through as artists in all their chosen subjects, you see how it translates into other aspects of our lives. And it's not a separate piece, it's an integrated part of life. And I think the better integrated we are, and I certainly think these days having this to connect you to yourself and to others and to the world is very healing, it's very empowering, and it's essential.
I could have said it better. I would say also, if a Lick motto is head, hearts, and hands, we are all of it. The department really, our departments really encompass all three, and one cannot exist without the other. And in addition to what you just said, Marty, we also, I think, nurture critical thinking skills, problem solving, which is obviously very, very important for overall development and success in any of the fields. Being able to ask essential questions, and persist, and be courageous in discovering those, I think it's really vital. And ultimately, to my understanding, the neuroscience is more than confirming that creative processes that students engage in arts are really good for our overall health, and they make us happy. And so who would ask for more? You really want your child to be happy.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. No, I really appreciate everything you all have said about that so far. So we've talked kind of philosophically about, the mindset behind why students take visual or performing arts and what the experience has been like. But I know a lot of the people watching today really want to know some tangible things. They want to know, what's it really like? So I'd love for our students, if you could share a meaningful experience. Maybe it's a teacher that had a meaningful impact. Maybe it's something, a funny thing that happened in the classroom, anything like that, or something that you've learned about yourself through an experience in the classroom. Anybody want to start?
Well, this is something that happened during distance learning. So but it kind of translates to like the community that is built in the arts. It was when we was like shelter in place, like really mid-quarantine, and Mr. Asaro, my music teacher, lived alone, and he was like, everyone was really struggling with being isolated, and it was kind of a very difficult time. We all really missed each other. We really missed being in the class and singing together, because it's very difficult to sing over Zoom. But Mr. Asaro also writes music. He's composing an opera. He's very, very, very talented. And he wrote a song like for our class essentially, and like for the vocal music department. And we all learned our parts, recorded it on our own, and like made a video, had like a professional editor come edit it and send it to the whole school community about like, it was called like Stay Strong. And it was just like watching it. So everyone was just like everyone was like, this made me cry. Like, it was so impactful. I know it made my parents cry. It made me cry when I was making it. It was just so powerful and such like a great example of how strong the connection is between arts teachers and students, and just the Lick community in general, I think. Yeah, so that was a really amazing experience.
I have I have two experiences. One is kind of like a silly one. In the theater, we use a lot of like big ladders in order to hang the lights in the theater. And we have this one really long extension ladder where we set it down on the ground and lean it over all the audience in the chairs, and we lean it up onto the pipes really high up in the ceiling. But this ladder, when you take it down, it's still really long. And so in order to navigate it through the like little like tight backstage area, it takes a lot of like planning it out. And one time a friend and I, we were trying to put it away. We didn't think it out, and we got stuck like through like 3 doorways in the piano, and we weren't able to like move it around. And we were like, oh God, like how do we get here? And that was just a really funny, like silly thing that happened. And we ended up, I don't know, it was a whole effort to get it out of there. But so that was like one like silly experience. And then like another one was, I think it was my sophomore year, and we were getting ready to do the fall play. And I remember like in my freshman year, for both times, like I got the like spiel on lighting from Miss Boyd, but this time she was like, oh, Ronan, like, do you mind, like, I'm gonna go down and help with some of the like set building people. Do you mind like showing these people around the theater and like showing them how our setup works? And I was like, oh yeah. And I didn't really think about it much then, but like afterwards, I was like, it felt really like good and rewarding to be able to like share stuff that I learned and be able to like help others, and also get like delegated to and get to like feel like the production was like a lot of like our work.
One of my fondest memories from chamber orchestra, I believe, was around this time last year, maybe a little later. We went to play for the Center for Jewish Living in San Francisco in the Excelsior district for, it's an elderly folks home. And there's throughout every class, there is like a big emphasis on service to community, service to others, service to, yeah, exactly, people who are not in Lick. So this was a really good example of, you know, us going out into the community and playing for these people who, you know, let's be honest, they're not doing a lot all day. And they really, really appreciated this, seeing us young people play music for them. You know, I saw a lot of these elderly folks tearing up, and it was such a gratifying experience. I mean, not like watching old people cry. It's not, that sounds a little cruel, but I think you get the point. Another really, really fun experience would be actually before the musical, all of the instrumental people, so the orchestra, the pit orchestra, we all went out for dinner. And oh my God, that was amazing. I love that. I remember that because I was still this little freshman, right? And most of the people there were, you know, upperclassmen. They had all these connections. They were bringing their friends, and just how we all went to this Korean place down the block. Really good time. Yeah.
I think my favorite project that I've done in architecture was the fall of my junior year. We designed these eco homes that were like eco-friendly residences on Yerba Buena Island in the Bay Area. And so basically we spent our whole semester on that and like researching all about like LEED, platinum, and the living building and all these standards and like technical aspects. And the main thing I remember is one day, it was Friday, December 13th, because I just looked it up on my calendar. And it was basically the last week before like the end of the semester. And pretty much like the last couple of weeks of the semester, everyone in architecture spends like all their time in the architecture classrooms. Like every day after school, we were all there. And that Friday was also the day of the dance concert, which is like another program in our performing arts. And so a bunch of us were staying after school, and it was like 7 p.m. And I remember Garanka brought out some cookies and tea or trail mix or something. And we had music on, and it was stressful because our projects were due in 3 days, but it was also really fun because I was with my classmates and just having a good time.
No, I love that. I think that still rings true, that people are in the architecture building getting ready to finish their projects. For teachers, what have been some meaningful moments for you throughout your teaching careers? Do you have a project or assignment that you assign every year that you love, or is there a unit in particular that you love to teach?
I can go. I think I love all the units I teach. I guess they're designed with a meaning and with intention. And when you do something like that, it's kind of hard to play favorites. So like, what's your favorite child? It's hard to do that. That being said, of course, there are some projects that resonate with students in a way that always warm my heart. I think in CMA class, that's a hero project that we do, where students are asked to celebrate somebody who had a meaningful impact in their life. And I can't tell you how many times I got almost like teary-eyed. Even now I'm getting goosebumps thinking about some of those, because it's just beautiful to observe how thoughtful and how kind and observant and respectful our students are, especially when they, celebrating somebody who has touched their life in a significant kind of way. And then in the architecture class, I think really, there are a lot of projects that I'm super excited to teach and see what my students will go with. But the one that actually I don't do every year, but occasionally, and every time I get really beautifully surprised and excited about results, is the project that is called Emerging Artists Center. And what I like about it is that my students are asked to design a place for students like them. The site we have is in the Golden Gate Park, on the between the Academy of Sciences and the Young. So it's a beautiful architectural setting on the concourse, and then they have to imagine what would the space be like for artists like them, for poets, for performers of different musical and dance kind of performances, for visual artists. It just seems like a great place to celebrate. And then how they actually find vocabulary to express that. It's probably one of the projects that's probably most close to, as abstract as it is, it's most close to the experience, because that's the place where they can actually bring the music they listen to. Like I know Luna's project and her partner's project had some beautiful mural work on the walls in the building, and sort of was inspired by hip hop. And so it's just really fun to observe what will come in play with that. And another shout out to Luna and the project that gets me, I mean, the idea that brings me to tears, and it's not, you know, insignificant. I was on a sabbatical leave this spring, and American Institute of Architects every spring has a competition where high school students are encouraged to participate. It's not required from anybody. Usually my students participate, and we do really well. But this year I wasn't going to be there, so I expected that nobody will take it on. But Luna and her partner, Wendy Sandoval, actually participated, and they did all the work independently without really any sort of guidance or help from me. And they got the second place for best design, which is like, I can't believe it. It's like, well, I am, but I should believe it, because they've been excellent students. But this is a testament to students' ability to carry what we offer. I think I'm giving the offering, and they go and then make it meaningful. Seeing this was really confirmation one more time of this beautiful student body we have, and how our students they really learn for attention, that the things that they're taking on are deeply meaningful, and they do find ways to apply it and nurture it and grow.
Let's see, I'm trying to think about a unit or assignment. I think every class, every year is really different, because I build my class around the instrumentalists. Talking instrumental music, which is mostly what I do. It's always built around who's in the class. And I think anybody who's been in that class, my classes, knows that, because it's an intimate situation. I love teaching chamber music. So if I have a cello and I have a viola, if I don't have a viola, if I have 3 flutes, if I have a horn and 2 flutes, if I have oboes, the challenge, and one of the fun challenges, what can we play together that has integrity as a piece of music that pushes people? And I do a lot of arranging to make sure it works for people, and that people need more challenge, get more challenge. And so it's every year is completely different. So the project is creating pieces that work for the group, and that's the assignment that comes over and over again. But the content is always different. It's the literature, it's the concept of the specific music, is the real world context of where it came from, and looking for ways to empower student voices and choices in the music that we play as much as possible, nurturing their creativity, bringing ideas that they have. Like my kids this year, the older kids are writing a piece, which is really exciting, and they're having a lot. It's really great to see them doing that, and just figuring out how to get everything down so that everybody can do it. There's really not much repetition except in the conceptually, because every year, even if you have this same student, a student that was here last year, that student will play differently in December than they played last May. So because growth is exponential in musicians in high school, it's just one of the phenomenons of being a teenager that I love watching most, is seeing how quickly and how much kids grow as artists and as people through their art. I will say at a very special occasion, couple years ago, we had a boy that had played violin for 4 years and was he had a visa and his family had to go back to Korea before his senior year, and he wasn't going to get to stay, but he did get to stay, and he was the concert master. And that year we had a really robust numbers of kids, and so we decided to do a violin solo at graduation, and he got to play as sort of like the last thing he got to do, you know, in the US, one of the last things, well, before going to college. And after an arduous time trying to stay in the States, we got to feature him in the graduation piece of the Meditation from Tice, which was really, really beautiful. And in this huge, huge hall with all the families of all the graduates and all their friends and everybody on stage, you could hear a pin drop as he played this really beautiful poetic piece. And it meant so much, I think, to everybody, that it was just a really powerful experience. And every once in a while you just get to do things like that. So in addition to just finding chamber music, which is, of course, I love chamber music and I thrive on it, the opportunities to make those kind of experiences be special is, you know, keeps me going.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, some of my fondest memories of my Lick-Wilmerding experience are in the performing arts department. So yeah, I'm grateful for all you have done. We touched on this a little bit, a couple of you have, but we talk a lot about the mission of our school, you know, Head, Heart, Hands being a public purpose driven type of school. And I think a lot of people might not realize that the curriculum for the arts programs, visual and performing specifically, really make the mission a central focus. And so I'd throw it out to all of you, students and faculty alike. What are some ways that you see the public purpose program in our school's mission sort of in relation to the arts programs, whether it's the units, experiences that are offered in the classroom, ways that you're able to sort of take, not just do art for art's sake, you know, but actually take it out into the world. So yeah, any of you feel free to jump in.
Well, sorry. When last year I took vocal ensemble, which is like the upper level chorus class, which is also a public purpose class, where there's kind of two really big things we do in the winter. So around this time last year, we learn a bunch of carols, not also, like, for example, I'm Jewish. We also learned some like other, like not either non-religious songs or like we sang like the Hanukkah song also. But we went to senior like living homes and like sang for them. And that was probably one of the most impactful like performance things I've ever done in my life, because they were just so moved by it and so like happy to have us there. And like they were just, as Eamon kind of touched on, like in tears of like our, it sounds very not modest to say our talent, but like they're just like having young people like take the time to come and perform for them was really special for them and for us as well. And then we also do a cabaret where we choose a theme and learn a bunch of songs connected to that theme, and then sell tickets for people to come see us perform. And then we have a very long debate about where to donate all the money to. And we ended up, well, we actually couldn't have the cabaret because of distance learning. However, it does happen every year, and it's a really special thing for the community and for us to be able to give back as well.
I took art and action last semester, and in that class, we read How to Be Anti-Racist by Dr. Ibram X. Kendi, and then we pulled quotes from it that we found impactful, and we screen printed a bunch of posters, and we made a bunch of different editions, and I believe we sent it off to him, and it's, I don't know if it's arrived yet, but it should be like in his office at some point. So that was really cool. And we also printed a bunch of different pieces that we could hang up outside, like just in the world. And then for the theater programs, I think on our matinees, every once in a while we'll invite local students from like elementary schools in the community to come and watch the plays. And it's a lot of fun because I sit up in the booth in the back. So I sit kind of in the audience doing the lighting things, and I get to see them all like walk in really like excited and stuff, and watch them leave and like sit in the audience. And I really like watching their excitedness.
So I did touch on one service performance that we did, kind of similar to Eliana's. But we also, another couple that we did, where we went to schools. We went to elementary schools and played for kids there. And they really, really liked that. I mean, of course, they're going to be all rowdy and crazy and whatnot, but they just really appreciated the fact that we came and played music for them. One memory that I had kind of tying into the last question was we have Jason, who's this wonderful violinist who came and worked with us and took over from Miss Stoddard as she took sabbatical last semester. He invited a couple kids up to conduct our orchestra, and there was just like, when he said, "Hey, who wants to conduct?" Everyone, like maybe 400 of these little 5th through kindergartners pull their hands up, and you know, he has to randomly pick. And there's these arguments that break out as to who wants to conduct the orchestra. It was a wonderful thing. I don't know. Yeah. That was really impactful, just to see how appreciated our music was by these kids.
Yeah, I guess for architecture, there's no explicit like public purpose component of it, but I think it's really still part of like the ethos of the class, especially because architecture, it's like designing, building in these physical spaces that are meant for people and like meant for the community. And so like Veronica mentioned the Emerging Artist Center that I did in my sophomore year with a partner, and so that was like meant to be an art space for teenagers across the city. And so my partner and I, we really wanted to focus on like how we could make this a building that would be inviting and not imposing, and that could be accessible by bus lanes and different transportation from kids all over the city, and like how to create a space that's engaging and also that reflects people who live in different neighborhoods of the city and stuff like that.
Yeah, faculty, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
I actually would like to add a couple of things. One of the events that I actually really love in my architecture classes, well, only really in advanced sections, there is a lovely program at Sloat Elementary that the first grade teacher brings an architect to work with her students during the year on doing small little projects that students, you know, of that age can do. And usually at the end of their school year, they bring their projects to our school, and they talk about what they've designed. And my students share the work with them. And seeing my students with these first graders is one of my most heartwarming moments, I have to say. And also because the students from the elementary school actually follow our program. So when we design skyscrapers, they design skyscrapers as well, and seeing those models they make and then how impressed they're with work my students did. And this kind of mutual admiration and respect is just beautiful. The other thing that I'm really very proud of in terms of architecture projects is the Senegal School. So over the last 10 years or so, my students designed, so in the architecture class, they designed the Senegal, the small school, 2 classroom or 3 classroom schools to be built in Senegal. And then during the summer, our students would go and build with the villagers. I feel that there is no really more meaningful and more kind of impactful way of practicing what they've learned from the coursework that I cover. I'm really super excited that Ronan mentioned the project about from Art in Action. Art in Action is a new class we just started offering this year. It has endless possibilities to reach, you know, the Lick mission to the fullest, and this whole idea of students producing work based on the book and then reaching out to Mr. Kendi, and then he's responding and being impressed and wanting to see all the work and have it really in his office was so, I just feel like profound as an experience. We also have mural making class where students actually go into community and they paint murals for different purposes. Our photo class oftentimes does a project celebrating local communities, and we did a beautiful project sort of offsetting the portraits of people in the OMI neighborhood that we situated in. So I think everybody in the department is trying to find another way to connect to the community, the environment, the immediate one or a bigger picture. And ultimately what Luna was saying too, like just being mindful, being responsible, being respectful, being, I guess, respectful of environmental policies, thinking in a global way, building sustainably, building with social responsibility in mind. I think it's really all part of curriculum and a program in the arts department, a visual arts department at least, and it really feels fulfilling and also satisfying to be part of that.
I'll go just briefly. Both Eamon was talking about and Eliana were talking about service performances. One of the things that we did, and the kids thing that we did, we also have taken, the jazz combos have gone out long before we even had the center. We were in carpools running down places to play for people, and that was sort of the beginning of it all, I think, in many ways. And so the relationship of kids performing for, we would play at St. Anthony's dining room. That's been a long time standing thing. We have a strong relationship with the organization Bread and Roses, which has hosted us in different communities for over 20 years. We have a couple certificates from them that I got mailed in the spring because we've been doing it every year practically since I came to Lick, and I'm very, very proud of that. The things that the kids learn by going down in the jazz thing. Sometimes folks, they're getting a meal, we're musicians, and so having the students interact with musicians who were not in good circumstances but could sit down and play the drums and totally be transported into some happy place by the connection with our kids is one thing. The other thing we did that was really industrious, and I was really pleased with the kids, was we took my jazz combo to a middle school where they actually ran sectionals for the kids, teaching them their instruments, side-by-side concerts with these 5th graders and 6th graders from a small school down in the peninsula, who they then performed a concert with them. We brought them here. We had a thing planned over time. So the kids came here and visited our class, and then we went down there and performed for them and worked with them. And so we started building some long-term relationships with those kids that, helped our kids learn how to teach and invest and see the value of what they'd learned and how to share it with other people. So I've been really pleased about that. And that's always been part of our, the fabric of what we do whenever possible. So of course, last spring, things are different. But.
Yeah, no, I so appreciate just everything you all have said about that. And that's one thing that I like to tell families is the public purpose aspect of the Lick-Wilmerding education has grown immensely over the last 15 years. And I would just say the faculty have just done such a wonderful job of continuing to reimagine how that can be such an important and vital part of the Lick-Wilmerding experience, and has allowed for the stories that you got to hear today. We only have time for one more question. I would just love to hear from all of you. If you could describe your experience in the arts program in one word, what would it be?
I'll go colorful.
Heartwarming.
Community.
Rewarding.
Inspiring.
Unforgettable.
Wonderful. And I would just add fulfilling. So thank you so much to all of our panelists for being here today. Students and faculty alike, we're just so grateful to have your experience to be able to share with our families here today. For joining us. I'm so glad you were able to be a part of this today. I would encourage you, if you want to connect more with our community, please visit our website and learn more about us, lwhs.org. Additionally, my colleague will put in some links in the chat there. They just all went in. We'd love to encourage you to look at all of our recordings of all of our virtual events from this last season. If you missed anything, that's a great spot to get caught up and learn a little bit more. You can also check out the department videos for the visual arts, performing arts, and technical arts programs. Those are up on our playlist. One other great way to get connected is to fill out the Connect with the Tiger Ambassador form. So if you want to hear more about these programs, or if you want to connect with students or parents, guardians who have been through the Lick-Wilmerding experience, we'd highly encourage you to please fill out that form and get in touch with us. We'd love to help you learn more about our community. And then last, if you had a question that you didn't have answered today, please feel free to email us at admissions@lwhs.org, and we're happy to get back to you. I think that's all for all of us today. So thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your afternoon or evening. Take care.